and having a conversation with a mystic. So I'm here to learn and to understand more about your philosophy and how your work is helping to achieve a better world. It's great to see so many colleagues here today. In the world, our mission is to help reduce or eliminate poverty in the world and to improve the living standards of the people of the world. And we live on a planet where there is still much to do, and I know your work is also working to that goal as well. I want today to start with where we converge, where we see the world in the same way. And as I've read and listened to you talking, and thanks to the internet, I was able to watch you on YouTube. You tell us that humanity has the necessary capability and resources to address every problem or almost every problem in the planet, but the only missing element is our willingness. And I think that you work to kindle this willingness within the millions of people who follow you, and they work to extend their hearts, their heads, and their minds to the betterment of humanity. We also work to this goal. And I think by definition, because we work in development, we're all optimists. So I'd like to start by asking how we can work to make the world a better place. You're in a room full of economists who look at poverty through the lens of numbers, statistics. I always say we can only make a decision if we have a spreadsheet. But can you tell us how you define poverty and what you mean by raising human consciousness and how this can contribute to ending world poverty?
Good morning to everyone. I think, Annette, it's best that this much abused word consciousness, we better define that in some sense. So when we look at our experience of life, when we look at individual experience, everything that human beings experience here is coming from what they see, what they hear, what they smell, taste and touch, or in other words, through the five sense organs. Five sense organs, in the very nature of things, can perceive only that which is physical. You can see only that which is physical. That which is not physical, you cannot see. Similarly, to touch, smell, hear, everything has to be physical. So what is the basis of physicality? Physicality means a defined boundary. If there is no boundary, there is no possibility of physicality. We can call this a physical body because there's a defined boundary. If there was no definition to this would not be physical. So, everything physical has to have a defined boundary. Entire human experience right now is coming from this defined boundary. Whatever structures you try to create, whatever good intentions you have, once again it ends up as one more boundary, one more division, one more segment in the world, one more caste or creed in its own way. Every one of these things which have become terrible divisions in humanity, I believe they all started with good intention. I don't think they started with a negative intention, but how many divisions have happened, how we have exploited each other. Talking about poverty, do we have the resource? Well, people are… if you look at the numbers, you said without a spreadsheet you can't make decisions. If you look at the spreadsheet of the differentiation between what is poor, what is rich in this world, it's obscene to say the least. I'm saying, people are saying the amount of money spent on pet food in Europe and America is enough to take care of basic health care for the entire humanity. It's obscene to say the least. So, this has happened not with bad intention, this has all happened with good intention. But because human experience is limited to their physical nature, they're trying to think beyond that. But you cannot think beyond your experience. You can think and again you'll end up in another cubicle and another cubicle. So we're talking about consciousness. When we say consciousness, we are talking about a dimension beyond physical nature. When I say dimension beyond physical nature, what is physical to us is all accumulated. This body is an accumulation of the food that we've eaten. What we call as the mind, the content of the mind is something that we accumulated by our impressions and experiences. What you accumulate can only be limited. You cannot accumulate unlimited. You cannot accumulate that which is boundless. So now we are talking about solutions in a boundless way. When we talk about solving problems seamlessly without thinking who is you and who is me, we need an inner experience which is beyond our physical nature. Only then we will identify beyond this, because human mind functions from the identities we have taken. Once we identify ourselves as something, knowingly, unknowingly, we are always trying to protect that identity. So to bring a human being to that dimension of experience, that he or she can function beyond identifications, is what needs to happen. So when we say well-being, from the imperial times, well-being meant taking whatever is there everywhere and bringing it to one place and creating well-beings in certain people. We kind of evolved out of that. Now we are saying well-being means this continent or that continent, but we're still leaving out a whole lot of things which are part of our well-being. The well-being of every creature on this planet, the well-being of every tree and plant, the well-being of every microorganism is connected with our well-being. This is not ecological awareness, this is consciousness. If your experience of life was beyond the limitations of your physicality, you would just know this by experience. When you know this by experience, you don't have to generate intention, you will just do the right thing. We have to bring the world to that place, that's a long way, but at least we have to bring the leadership in the world to that place. When I say leadership, it is only a question of maybe 5,000 people on the planet. When I was at the Economic Forum, they asked me, Sadhguru, if there's one thing we can do for you, which will change the world, what is it? I said, I will name 25 people. You give them to me for 5 days. You will see in 3 years, you will see a significant change on the planet. They asked, who are these people? I named the 25 heads of states of the major nations on the planet. Give them to me for 5 days, you will see everything will change. Because there is money, there is resource, there is technology, only the intent is missing. But the intent is missing not because of bad intentions, not because of some evil in their minds. Intent is missing because there is no larger experience within themselves.
Well, thank you. I guess the question I have is that, you work and live in South Asia, and I work in South Asia, and this is a region where many groups are left behind.
Indians are feeling very insulted, you're not referring to it as South India.
But that's another conversation about the continent. But my question is that, we firmly believe that you can't have development unless development actually reaches everybody, that it is development for women and girls, it's development for people of tribes and ethnic groups that are often left behind or marginalized, it's for people of all backgrounds regardless of their religion, their caste, their ethnicity and so on. And this is a constant challenge in development, is how we actually ensure that development reaches all of these groups who have been shut out of economic and social opportunity and who are unable to seize opportunity on the same terms. What's your thinking on this challenge?
See, by law, everybody is equal, at least in India. Now, there are countries where by law you're not equal, especially genders are not equal. In India, by law you're equal, but by practice, it's still not. These are 1,000-year-old problems. They don't get solved overnight. A sustained push has to happen. The problem is of many levels. One thing is the democratic process itself addresses people as religious groups, caste groups, because that is the way to get a bunch of votes. So every election, if you have forgotten your caste or religion, when the election comes, they're going to remind you who you are. I'm saying, that's a reality in which you live. In case you forgot what is your caste and religion, when the election comes, they're clearly reminding you because people have understood the technology of manipulating democracy, the science of how to manipulate democracy. People have understood this number game, how to add up the numbers. It is no more about a big pitch to where to take the nation. Everybody has understood the science of winning an election, which I think is very dangerous and which I think is one of the most divisive forces that are happening in India at least. Otherwise, generally on a day-to-day basis, most people don't know what is their caste. Only when they want to get married, they check a little bit. Otherwise, generally they don't know what is their caste. It's not… you're not reminded of that on a daily basis. But when the election comes, you won't be spared, you will be reminded. So, some fundamentals have to change. Though by law, it is all equal, in practice, there is a difficulty. Definitely we've moved a long way, we've come a long way in the last 25 years, a big change has happened. Those divisions are much less. There are more girls in school today than ever before. Probably there are more girls in school than boys in most of the villages, it is true. Where we are running schools in southern India, generally 60% of the students are girls, 40% are boys, because boys like to do other things than studying. They don't always come to the school, but the girls come straight to the school. So there is a certain natural studiousness about them, or they have figured it out. Unless they get educated, they're just going to be rubbished around here and there. They clearly understand that. Boys still don't get it and probably for them somehow they manage something around. So, how to level this is once again is a question of the consciousness of the leadership. When I say leadership, it's not just a question of prime minister, chief minister like this. Leadership, the tiers of leadership which are down, they're not in the same mindset. The prime minister may be having a certain thought, the next level of the chief minister's thought is totally different. Down the line to the bottommost leadership, which is panchayat, is another world by itself. So, this disconnect is there. I think right now a serious effort is being made to get everybody on the same pitch with the Prime Minister's vision for the country. A pitch is being made, but being a democracy, election always around the corner, everybody misunderstands this is a political intent. You don't know whether to make out of it as a genuine intent or a political intent to win the next election. I feel in a country like India, this may create lots of trouble for me, but let me say it. In a country like India, I think we must skip one election, that is, not every 5 years, every 10 years. Give them 10 years to create something. Because in a nation like India, with the kind of diversity and complexities we have, I think any political leader, to have any fair shot at creating something, he needs at least 8 to 10 years run. But the fear is always if somebody becomes corrupt, somebody becomes a despot, then you end up for 10 years, what to do with him? So these problems are there, but these are intrinsic problems to a democratic society. But all said and done, in terms of eliminating caste, creed, religious bias, gender bias, the movement is tremendous. What has happened in the last 5 years itself is quite tremendous. On the ground, there's a huge change. But still, if you don't change rapidly enough, one generation's life may pass. That is the concern.
In your work, you work with leaders, and you said if you had the opportunity to take 25 leaders, we would probably say 187 leaders, I think we have something like that in our membership. But it would be helpful to me and others, I think, to understand when you work with leaders in your work, what are you trying to do and how do you do it in your work with them?
So generally, I find, though there is a lot of opinion all over the place, when you meet most of the leaders, they're well-intentioned, but they're caught up in a mire of situations. Democracy is an obligatory game. To climb up there, by the time you reach to the top place, you're obligated to so many people. When you sit there, if you don't take care of all these people, they all think you betrayed them. If you take care of them, other people think you're corrupt. So this is a very funny game. That's why I said if he has a long enough term, he or she has a long enough term, maybe they could… maybe if they're well-intentioned, they can go without these obligations. But my work with people has been, I've kept little focus on politicians because their term is 4 to 5 years. You see in this country, I see election is on for… it's a 4-year term. 2 years election campaign is going on. See, it's a 4-year term for the presidency. 2 years election campaign is going on. No, some time limit must be put, 3 months is enough. Let them prove themselves in 3 months. Why does it take 2 years? Every day you watch the news, only election is happening on the news channel. In India, I thought it's bad, it starts 6 months ahead. I'm pitching not more than 3 months, there must be any kind of election work. Let them focus on administration. We elected them to administer, not to fight one more election and one more election forever, okay? So I think somewhere, some limits have to be put because we have celebrated… I think moving from dictatorships and monarchies, we kind of little too thrilled with democracy. We need to understand every system has its flaws and democracy has too many loopholes. Only thing is, at least the mistakes are ours, you know. It's not somebody else's mistakes we suffer, it's our mistakes that we suffer. That is the only satisfaction we have. But yes, we have decided this is the best way to run the world, that's fine. But I think some limits have to be put. You can't run an election for 2 years. Election campaign cannot go on for 2 years. There must be a limit, 4 months, 3 months is enough. This is costing enormously. This is costing enormously for the lives of common people. And everybody, the entire country is in an election mode for 2 years, nobody is focusing on what they're required to do. So the leadership, as political leadership, I've generally kept away for a variety of reasons, except those we find are visionary in nature. My work has been largely with business leaders and bureaucratic leaders, because these are people who are there for a solid minimum 25 to 30 years. These are the people who can make a difference. So about 8 years ago, we made a list of 2,000 people in India who are business leaders and bureaucratic leaders who will definitely be there for another 25 years in the country doing things that they're doing. They may not be in the news, they may not be up there, these are not photo op leaders, these are real leaders who are doing work on the ground. So, we made a list of these people and said, if we can bring about at least 10% change of heart in them, they can change everything in the country. So we aimed in 4 years' time, we will get these 2,000 people. But now it's 8 years or almost 9 years now. We have touched about 46% of this leadership. They're quietly making a change for sure. They're everywhere today, in the administration, in the bureaucracy, in the business field. All of them making significant difference in the work that they were… how they were working before and how they're working today, with what intention. My main work has been to shift people from personal ambition to a larger vision. Personal ambition is a way of tweaking your desire, you know. People keep tweaking it every year, it gets little more and little more and little more. And this is what is destroying the world. Why are you going in installments? Why don't you have a desire, you know? It's not by reducing desire the world will get better. You just have to increase your desire. Why are you stingy with your desire? That I have to live well, my family have to live well. Why don't you make a real greedy desire? I want everybody in the world to live the way I am. So I'm trying to increase their desire from being personal ambition to a larger vision that we want to do this. So especially for business leaders, see whether you're manufacturing a safety pin or a computer or a spacecraft, it doesn't matter. Fundamental business is human well-being. Somewhere in these spreadsheets, I'm sorry, I'm not referring to your spreadsheets, these what do you call them, the balance sheets of 3 months balance sheets, these quarterly balance sheets have become paramount goals. You've forgotten. Why we're looking at numbers is just to give us the guidance, how we're going forward or backward. It is not an ultimate God-given thing to anybody. But now these quarterly balance sheets have become the ultimate goals. So generally my work is to move people from this kind of short-term things to a larger vision, that be really greedy. If you manufacture safety pin, what should be your thing? All the 7 billion people must use my safety pin, the best safety pin, okay? Similarly with everything else, I'm saying instead of trying to curtail human aspiration, which is never going to work, it's never going to work. You can try as hard as you want, you can teach whatever philosophies you want to people, they will all nod today, be content with what you have. Tomorrow morning they're on with their own stuff. So it is better to make an all-inclusive aspiration rather than trying to curtail aspiration. Curtailing aspirations have never worked. And one of the biggest things that I'm pitching with the political leaders in India and elsewhere also is, we need to curtail human population. That's our only problem. Nobody wants to address this. We took charge of certain things. There used to be epidemics, there used to be serious infectious diseases, and there used to be a certain number of children dying before they reach 4 years of age. All these things we took charge. Once we take life into our hands, we must understand that birth is also our business. Once you postpone death, you also must postpone birth, isn't it? The beginning of 20th century, we were 1.6 billion people. Today we are nearly 7.2 or 7.3 billion people. In India, in 1947, when we got our independence, we were just 330 million people. Today we are 1.2 billion people. So 4 times in 67 years. I think it's irresponsible reproduction. Yes, people are taking pride, we are the youngest nation, we are the youngest nation. So I asked, a minister was talking about how we are the youngest nation. I said, what happened to the old people? He said, what? No, we are the youngest nation. I said, fine, what happened to the old people? Nobody got old. That's not a great thing to gloat about. In 1947, the life expectancy of an average Indian was 28 years. Today, it's 64. It's a great thing. People are living longer, but that's becoming our curse because we postpone death. We must also postpone birth. We need to understand this. Otherwise, whatever you do, it's not enough. Whatever you do is not enough. Just going on doing more economic development is not a solution, it's going to lead to a disaster. See, economic development is fine, but there is only that much world. People are talking about wealth generation. There is no wealth generation. You can only take something that is here and put it there, what is there you can put it here. It's the same planet. Today, the living earth statistics tell us that if the entire world has to have what an average American citizen has, if the 7 billion people should have this kind of comforts and convenience and lifestyles, we need 4.5 planets, but we have only half a planet left. In India, for example, I'm addressing this and we are starting movements to save some rivers now. A big movement is happening and fortunately, the government is responding very positively. Year on year, An average of 8% drop is happening in the river waters in India. So this is approximately 16 to 18 years. Most rivers will be gone, they will be just seasonal. Right now, the major rivers, people who come from South India, they've been fighting with this river between two states, like Kaveri, touches the ocean only 5 months in a year. 7 months it doesn't reach the ocean. This is true with most of the major rivers. It is not reaching the ocean, it's getting all used up right here. So you do more development, more dams, more people, more food, but there is no more, there is only this much. But we are nice, but we are too many. We don't have to kill the people who are here, but we can postpone the birth, which has to be done. And it's not a God-given duty for everybody to reproduce. If human race is in danger, everybody must reproduce, but right now there is no such danger. Every other creature is in danger. We should tell the tigers to reproduce, elephants to reproduce. Humans, slow down.
There are many young people watching this, and I'm sure that's a message that probably has more resonance for them than for me. But more seriously, we were talking earlier before we came down here about the search that many young people have for identity and meaning in the world and the choices that they make. What message do you have for young people and the role that they can play in making the world a better place?
So when you say youth, you're talking about humanity in the making. That means you're not fully conceited yet. That means you're not set, you still are open possibility. So that's a tremendous phase of life. Youth means it comes with enormous energy. Those of you who are young, you don't understand what I'm talking right now. Because youth means it comes with enormous energy. Slowly, it doesn't matter how well you keep yourself. I think I kept myself pretty well, but still, you don't have the same energy. Well, I'm doing better than most youth, but but still you don't have the same energy after some time. So this moment of enormous energy is the time when we can make tremendous things happen. But unfortunately, your intelligence may get hijacked by the hormones, that you can't think straight. It just gets entangled into this and that. So this energy largely goes waste in anger, in compulsions of various kind, this and that. If only youth invest a little bit in stabilizing themselves, if you bring stability to your way of being, this energy can become a tremendous force. This energy is a real solution to the world, for everything, for every problem that you have. The energy that the youth carries, if it had stability, it would become a solution for every problem that we have on the planet, because that human energy is needed to make things happen. So as a part of this, we are going into schools. This yoga day, as I was telling you, 18,632 schools across India, we're bringing a simple yogic practice that we're training teachers so that they will sustain it for the children to bring this balance. I'll tell you how this balance is. When we opened our Isha Home School a decade ago, one day I went in the morning to the assembly where all the tiny tots were sitting, all 7-year-olds are sitting. They're all like this, like this. Then I said, why these kids have become like this? They're like broken tops. So I just said, 12 minutes a day, we just brought some simple sounds, 7 notes of the Indian classical music. Every day 12 minutes they do. After 2 months I go, they're all sitting like this. That's all it takes, I'm saying. The simple methodology of what brings stability into a human being, unfortunately, is missing in our education systems. Our education system as it is, to the first question that you asked also, our education system is all about how to exploit everything in the universe. Our idea of science is just this, how to use everything in the world, including human beings. Yes? How to use an invisible atom, how to use an invisible microbe, how to get protein out of bacteria. Why? We are looking at the world as a killing field. We are looking at the world as a way to squeeze it. This is fundamentally because we're in pursuit of happiness. This is the biggest problem. If you pursue happiness, you will endlessly run without ever finding it because it's not out there. Every human experience, joy or misery, both are generated from within us. If you know how to manage this, if your mind and your body took instructions from you, keeping this healthy and joyful would be a natural consequence. Now your body is compulsive, your mind is in a compulsive mode, and now you're in pursuit of happiness. This is a mad humanity, just ravaging through the world. The more empowered humanity becomes, the more damage they will cause. Let us admit this much, it's the educated on the planet who have caused the maximum damage to this planet, isn't it so? The uneducated don't cause so much damage. So, our education has not brought sense to us. Our education has not brought life sense to us. It has only given us empowerment as to how to squeeze life out of every damn thing in the universe. So, our mode of education has to change. Fundamentally, how to live, how to manage this one is not there. We know how to manage the entire universe, but we don't know how to manage this. What is it that human beings are struggling with? Their thought and their emotion, entire life. They spend an entire lifetime still not knowing how to manage their own thought and their own emotion. Something as simple as, let's say, anger. From the caveman till now, you're getting angry the same way, isn't it? There's no high-tech way to get angry. Maybe today if you get angry, you don't pick up a stick, you pick up a nuclear weapon, but the same anger, nothing has changed. I'm saying such a simple emotion, we can't handle it. Why? Because we have not… the education systems have not given a moment to the quality of what this is. We're trying to teach discipline, we're trying to teach morality. People know how to subvert those things. Only if you create an inclusive experience, then there is no subversion of that because it is life-enhancing in every way. Every moment, whatever every human being is trying is just this, in some way to expand their experience of life. Somebody may think money will do it, somebody may think wealth will do it, somebody may think knowledge will do it or love will do it. Basically what you're thinking is to be little larger than who you are right now. But if that happens, you want to be little larger than that. If that happens, little larger than that. So you're going in installments towards what? Fundamentally, you want to become boundless, but you're approaching boundlessness or infinite nature in installments. Infinity in installments is a hopeless case. It's a hopeless case. Even if you become the king or queen of this planet, it's not going to stop you. Look at the stars, already we are, isn't it? If you conquer 5 galaxies, you think you will stop. Let's understand the fundamental nature of a human being. We don't know how to manage our minds, but we want to manage 1,000 people, obviously you will go bonkers. So fundamentally, if your mind took instructions from you, would you keep yourself blissful or miserable? It's a question. Hello? Blissful, isn't it? So, the fundamental thing is just this, nobody ever taught you from your kindergarten to your PhD how to manage this. So this is what needs to happen to humanity. They must know how to keep their body, how to keep their mind, how to manage this. If you know how to keep this joyful, when you're joyful, let me ask you this question. If I meet you when you're very joyful, I'm sure you're a wonderful human being. Yes or no? But if I happen to meet you when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're miserable about something, you're depressed, you could be nasty. Yes or no? This is true with every human being. So we have not taken care of the most fundamental thing, how a human being should be within himself or herself. We are leaving it to ethics, morality and fixing the world. You fix the world as much as you want. If you fix it anymore, there'll be no planet left. We've fixed it that far already, but still we are in pursuit of happiness. From pursuit of happiness to expression of joy, if you do not shift, there is really no solution for anything. Youth, this is the time to do it. The first thing before you step out into the world is that this must be in a wonderful state. If this steps out in a wonderful state, it will do only wonderful things. When you are feeling wonderful, are you not wonderful to everything around you? That's the only insurance you have. So it's like this. The nature of your existence, your experience and your perception is right now like this. You know that you're here right now because you can see, you can hear, you can smell, you can taste and you can touch. Suppose right now you just dozed off a little bit. You're still very alive and everything is going on here. But if you doze off a little bit, first thing is I will disappear, for sure. If you doze some more, everybody will disappear. If you go more, even you will disappear. This is the nature of human experience. Simply because the five sense organs have shut down, suddenly the world is obliterated, even you're obliterated. Or in other words, your entire experience of life right now is limited to five sense organs. These sense organs, in the very nature of things, cannot see anything the way it is. They can only see everything in comparison. You know what is light only because you know darkness. You know what is sound only because you know silence. You know this only because of that. Because, see, right now if I touch this, my hand says this cup is cool. No, it is not so. It is because of the way my body temperature is, I'm thinking this is cool. If I lower my body temperature and touch this would be warm to me. So your entire perception is by comparison. Perception by comparison is good enough for survival process. It is not good enough for knowing the nature of life. It will help you to survive in the world. These five sense organs will help you to survive in the world, but it will not give you any sense about what this life is about. So if you have to know life the way it is, not the way it's projected to be. When I say not the way it is projected to be, see right now, let's say you're 6 feet tall. Now, in this society, you stand like a tall man, you walk like a tall man, you feel like a tall man, you are a tall man. You went to another society where everybody is 8 feet tall, suddenly you feel like a short man, stand like a short man, walk like one and feel like one, and you are one, isn't it? So what you know by comparison is only good enough for survival in a given situation. It is not good enough instruments to know life in its essence. So if you want to know something more, you have to enhance your perception. Right now, everything that you carry in your mind as information is all these comparisons and half bits and pieces. When I say bits and pieces, right now you can see this part of my hand. That means you cannot see this part of my hand. This is not just with my hand, even if you take a grain of sand, if you see one part, you cannot see the other part. This is the nature of human perception. When this question came up, when Arunabh asked this question some time ago, when I was a child, I stared and stared, trying to bend my perception around this because I can see only a part of it. How to see the other part? You won't believe this. By the time I was 11 years of age, I would walk in the jungle alone by myself for 3 to 4 days till my bread lasted, alone. And I learned to see in the dark absolutely as good as the animals. And not just walking, I caught dozens of snakes in the dark. They couldn't believe that I can see as good as them, but I could pick them up because it is just a question of enhancing your perception, and a human being is capable of this because on this planet, we have the most evolved neurological system. But because of cerebral activity, which is new, evolutionary scale, it is a new happening. Because of that, we are too enamored with our thought and emotion, we don't feel so many things. But actually, you have a better neurological system than any creature on this planet. Do you agree with me? But if you want to smell something out, you'll bring a dog. If you want something else, you look at something else, because they don't have this thought process. They're able to just be keen on how they perceive their senses. But human beings' ability to sense anything has gone down because they are completely going on with their own thought. Their own thought and emotion keeps them busy for their entire life. Their psychological reality has overshadowed their existential reality. This is the biggest problem. So when we talk about life, we are not talking about a psychological space. Today if you say life, if somebody says my life, you are supposed to think he's talking about his work, he's talking about his family, he's talking about his car, he's talking about his wealth. He's not talking about life. Life means this, what is throbbing inside and keeping this alive right now. This is life, isn't it? But when people say life, you are supposed to understand that he's not talking about life, he's actually talking about his job or wealth or money, a business or something. Because your idea of life has become purely survival. The idea of evolution or the possibility of this evolution is that a human being is capable of rising beyond their survival process. This is the reason why survival doesn't fulfill you. For every other creature, their survival requirements are taken care of, they're just fine, they have no other issue. Eating, sleeping, reproducing, their life is complete. Till these things happen to you, you think these are big things. But once they happen to you, they don't mean anything. You want something more to happen. If that something more happens, you want something more. If that something more happens, you want something more. If you look at this, what you want is not more, what you want is all. And if you want all, you should not go by extending physical boundaries, because physical can never be all, isn't it? You're desiring for the infinite, but you think you will get there by counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, you will only become endless counting. You will only become endless counting. Now, because we are looking at everything in comparison, in many ways we have fragmented the world, even our own species between men and women, and everything is divided because we are perceiving everything through sense perception, we don't have a life perception. So if you have to transcend the limitations of your senses, it is not that senses are bad, without that you wouldn't even know that you exist. Senses are fundamental, without it you cannot survive. But once you're human, survival is not good enough, something more needs to happen. For that something more, some striving is needed, you must look at this properly. Anything in your life which is about survival has come to you just naturally. See, suppose you got lost in a jungle as an infant, no contact with any human society. Something edible came in front of you, would you first try your ears, then your nostrils, then your eyes and accidentally find your mouth? No. Anything concerned with survival, you just know, isn't it? But you wouldn't know how to read, how to write, language, this, that, many other things you would not know. Because anything beyond survival will not come to you unless you strive for it. So, to turn inward, that means, why I'm saying turn inward is because these sense organs are essentially outward bound. But the experience of your life is happening from within you. Do you see me? Hello, all of you. Do you see me? Even if you're not listening, it's okay, but do you see me? Can you use one hand and point out where I am? You got it all wrong, you know, I'm a mystic. No, this light is falling upon me, reflecting, going through your lenses, inverted image in the retina, you know the entire story. So where do you see me? You see me within yourself. Where do you hear me? You hear me within yourself. Where have you seen the whole world? Within yourself. Everything that ever happened to you, light and darkness happens within you, pain and pleasure happens within you, joy and misery happens within you, agony and ecstasy happens within you. Just about anything that ever happened to you happened only within you. You have never experienced anything outside of you. Right now, if somebody touches your hand, you think you're experiencing their hand. No, you're only experiencing the sensations in your hand, isn't it? Now your entire experience is within. When it is so, what happens within you, at least what happens within you, must happen the way you want it, isn't it? If you happen just the way you want it, would you keep yourself in the highest level of pleasantness or unpleasantness? Pleasantness. The choice for yourself is definitely pleasantness. What you want for your neighbor may be debatable, but what you want for yourself is very, very clear. But that one thing is not happening. Why I'm talking about pleasantness is, there is substantial medical and scientific evidence today that if you remain pleasant, without a moment of anger, anxiety, irritation, agitation, nothing, for 24 hours if you remain like this, they are saying your ability to use your intelligence can go up by 100% in 24 hours' time. So, pleasantness or joy or bliss is not a goal by itself, it is a fundamental necessity. In the sense, only if your experience of life is pleasant and if there is no fear of suffering, will you walk full stride. Otherwise, fear of suffering will always cripple you in so many ways. But today it's become like this, people, well, even spiritual leaders are going about talking, saying that peace of mind is the ultimate goal of life. Such people will only rest in peace. I was to speak at Tel Aviv, and I'm flying out of Atlanta in United States, and I'm to land there at 11 in the morning and speak at 6:30 in the evening. I end up landing there because of some flight delays at 6 in the evening. So I'm quickly changing in the airport, because in these 35 years I have not been late to a single event or appointment. I've managed this always. So I'm rushing and I'm famished, I'm super hungry, because I'm flying an American airline, there's nothing edible on that plane. But I don't have a moment to grab something, so I just went straight, and to my amazement I found I'm speaking at a fine restaurant. That doesn't happen at all to me. I thought, this is it. When I'm so hungry, this is the place to go. And people were already coming in, some people greeting me, and one man comes and says, "Shalom." I ask him, "What does it mean?" He says, "This is the highest way of greeting." I said, "Well, that's your opinion. What does it mean?" He said, "No, this is really the highest way of greeting." "All right, but what does the word mean?" I said, "It means peace." Then I say, why is peace the highest way of greeting unless you're born in Middle East? You come in South India, in the morning you come and say, "Peace." I'll say, "What's wrong with you?" I'm saying if you deprive yourself of something for long enough, suddenly, slowly it'll rise to heaven. If you've not eaten for 5 days, let us say your favorite god appeared, what will you ask? Food? Food will raise to heaven, everything that you don't have will raise to heaven. Being peaceful, it's not the ultimate goal of life, it is the most fundamental requirement. Today if you want to enjoy your dinner, if not ecstatic, at least you must be peaceful, isn't it? If you want to take a walk on the street and enjoy it, you must at least be peaceful. If you want to live with this handful of people in your family, you must at least be peaceful if not ecstatic, isn't it? If you want to enjoy the few things that you do in your life, the most fundamental thing, basic requirement is at least you're peaceful. But today people are saying, it is the ultimate goal of life, peace of mind. That's never going to happen, because they have not understood the simplest aspects of life. For example, your mind. Can we? The simplest aspect, it's like this. Because people are falling out of scriptures, this is the biggest problem. I was about to tell a joke, but Aruna was serious. This happened in Tennessee. You know, our center in United States is in Tennessee. It's a hardcore religious place. People said, Sadhguru, you'll get killed in no time. But we are flourishing in Tennessee, doing very well, because they can't figure out who I am. I go out into this little town, and I'm new there, and I'm smiling at everybody and greeting people on the street. Small little town. One big man, over 6 feet tall, this wide, comes and stands just 6 inches away from me, looks down on me like this and says, God loves us. I look at him and say, the way you are, only God can love you. He has to love the mistakes he has made. Before he realizes, it takes time to get things. By then I'm gone, of course. So in Tennessee, every family has a huge Bible, not small, big ones, this big, leather bound. The bigger the family, the richer the family, the bigger the size of the Bible. Almost every home has 10 commandments carved on the stone. Most of it goes from South India, these carvings. So it's good business, I watch this and say, okay, it's good for our economy, commandments or no commandments. So, this little boy, 8-year-old boy, went to school on East Coast and came back home on the vacation. So he was just flipping through this big book, and a dry leaf fell out. The boy started screaming, Mama, Mama, see what I found. His mother said, what have you found, my son? He said, just come and see what I found. So the mother came running to see what. Then he pointed at the leaf and said, Adam's underwear. So a lot of people, the reason why something so simple and life-oriented has become complicated is because people are falling out of scriptures. What is it that makes you think 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years ago, people were far more intelligent than you and me? Why is it so? Is it not such a retrograde step that you think people 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years ago were much smarter than you and me? Is it so? Is it in line with the evolutionary process, I'm asking? No. But this is the thing we want to change. Today, with everything around us, we handle it scientifically using various technologies. It is equally important that you handle your inner nature scientifically, in a logically correct manner and with tools. Now your thing is, give me the tools. These are subjective in nature. If it was a screwdriver, I would have come with a bag full and given it to you. This is subjective. What is subjective means it is something within. Right now, everything of you is outward. That is, all your 5 senses are outward bound, isn't it? You cannot turn them inward. You can't roll your eyeballs inward and scan yourself. You can hear this, so much activity here, you cannot hear this. An ant crawls upon this hand, you can feel it. So much blood flowing, you cannot feel it. In the very nature of things, your sense organs are outward bound. If you want genuine tools of transformation, I would say, if you dedicate 28 to 30 hours of focused time, okay? 28 to 30 hours of focused time, we will give you tools to experience or touch a dimension which is inward. Inward is not of thought, inward is not contemplation. What you call as mind and body is very outward, because body is something that you accumulated over a period of time from outside, isn't it? The soil that you walk upon is what is sitting here as the body. If you get it now from me, your life will transform. Otherwise, one day you will get it from the maggots. Yes What you call as my mind is also an accumulation of impressions that we have taken in. This is accumulation of food, this is accumulation of impressions. But between these two heaps of impressions and food, somewhere there is something else which makes all this happen. If that comes into your living experience, then you will not need any guidance from anybody. To get you there, I'm asking not 12 years of sadhana, I'm asking 30 hours of focused time. You must do that much to yourself. You deserve that.
Thank you.
Is your message, your essential message about life and how to change your life and how to improve your life different in different places? Do you go to Beverly Hills and see a different need than you see
In a tribal village in India? No, not at all. They would like to think they're different, but they're not. They just complicate simple things. If I go to a tribal village, directly those ladies will just come and tell me what's their problem. If I come to Beverly Hills, they go round and round and round, take 3 days to tell me what's the problem.
welcome to my hood, Sadhguru. And how do you, because I think that this is actually something that all of us do struggle with, this compulsiveness, this inability to let go of things that we know on some level we should be able to let go of. How do you advise us or help us to let go of those things that we know are almost haunting us sometimes?
So let us understand the fundamentals of compulsiveness, where it comes from. See, everything that's physical in this universe, from a single atom to the cosmic nature of things, everything that's physical is naturally in cyclical motion. In atom, things going around. In the cosmos, it's going around, solar system is going around. Our own bodies are cycles. We are born out of the cycles of our mother's bodies. So, the moment you're identified with the physicality of who you are cyclical in nature. What is cyclical is compulsive. What is cyclical has taken a compulsive pattern. It has to do the same things again and again. You try as hard as you want, it will not go. You will give up one and hang on to another. I hope with the Jewish rabbi a joke is allowed.
A Jewish rabbi, actually, a joke is mandatory.
Yes,
so.
okay, that's good. This happened. It once happened that Shankaran Pillai was working in an office and his office colleague asked for a lift, a woman, a young woman. So he took her in the car and he was driving and suddenly he became like an octopus, that his limbs were all over her. So she pushed him away and said, "You fool, I thought you were a decent fellow. What are you trying to do?" He said, "I'm sorry, I gave up smoking." So, if you try to beat compulsiveness with force, you will switch from one cycle to another cycle to another cycle. It keeps happening. Fundamental thing is this, you are so strongly identified with your own physical nature, inevitably you will be cyclical, do whatever you want. So this is why what spiritual means is that your experience of life becomes… something within you becomes larger than your physicality. Physicality includes your thought and emotion. This is…
Yes, no, I mean, what I was going to say, two things. First of all, I think when people talk about whether they're religious or not religious, I actually don't believe that's the distinction. The distinction between people are materialists and non-materialists. That is, those who believe that non-material things are real and spiritual realities are real. And the reason that I bring this up in part is because I know that one of the things we had talked about addressing is the question of mysticism. And it seems to me that both our traditions share a belief that the world that you can see and touch and feel is not all there is. And just now, as I understood you, you were appealing to the non-physical parts of ourselves as a sort of antidote to the over-reliance on the physical part of cyclical compulsiveness?
See, it's not a question of…
Oh, just say yes to one of my questions. Tell me right, you got it right, Rabbi. I'm working here.
Yes, but… Yes, but the thing is, it's not something that we have to believe in. See, none of us were born like this as we are. We came like this, we became like this. This is just accumulation of the food that we've eaten, or it's just a piece of the planet. Most people don't get this point till you bury them. Even that in Los Angeles I feel is difficult because I heard they're being buried in a concrete vault. So even in burial, you will still not know that you're part of the earth. So this is something that you gathered. Anything that you gather, at the most you can claim is yours. You cannot claim it's me. I can say, this glass of water is my glass of water. But if I say this is me, you know that I'm a case. You know for sure. So if you say this is my body, yes, it is right now, till we bury you. But if you say this is me, you're a case. Your only comfort is, everybody around you is a case. This is how it is in an asylum. The only nutcase is the doctor.
How do you shift that perspective, though? How do you learn to see yourself as continuous with everyone and everything?
So it's like this. I'm agreeing with that.
We're good, we're good.
See, this is my body, that's your body, distinctly separate, at least right now. Till both of us are buried, till then, this is my body, that's your body, very clear. This is my mind and that's your mind, very clear. But there is no such thing as my life and your life. There's no such thing. This is like, I'm sure at some stage in your life, when you were in school at least, you blew some soap bubbles, huh? So that's my bubble, this is your bubble. Poop, it goes. There is no such thing as this is my air and this is your air. This is a living cosmos. You captured some, I captured some. How significant a life you become. When I say significance, not how significant you are in the society or in the world. It's not about that. As a life you become significant because you have captured that much of life which overwhelms the puniness of your own mind and physical body. Within you, the life that you captured is a larger dimension than the body that you have gathered and the information that you have gathered in the form of your mind. When the life that you are is bigger than your mind and your body, no teaching is needed. You're simply conscious about that, that's all. It's not that you believe that, that's a living reality for you. So my whole work is to bring people to a dimension of experience where the life that they are is larger than the mind that they are. Life that they are is larger than the body that they are. So you don't have to give a teaching or a kind of a belief system. Naturally, what is most dominant becomes you, within you.
And the way that you bring people to that dimension of being or dimension of existence is…
See, as there is a science and technology for external well-being, there is a whole science and technology for inner well-being. The problem that happens in every tradition is, over a period of time, generation after generation, it gathers moss. So much frill it gathered Nobody knows where the skirt is.
There was a French Catholic writer, Charles Piguet, who said everything begins in mysticism and ends in politics. And I think that in religious traditions, that's exactly, there's a great deal of truth to that. So how do you scrape the barnacles off the boat or the moss off the tradition and identify that kernel which can actually expand people's sense of what they are a part of, but what they are only a small part of?
I think I came with a huge advantage that I'm completely uneducated, refuse to be educated. Why I'm saying this is, it is not easy to remain uneducated. Because from the moment you're born, the moment somebody sees a child, all the adults want to pounce upon the child, wanting to teach something that's not worked in their life. Parents, teachers, every kind of people. The moment they see a child, they want to teach the child something. It's very clear. When you look at the child, the exuberance and the joy that the child has and the adults are the way they are, obviously it's not worked for them, whatever they know. But they want to teach it to the child. So I refused this one influence on me. I just remained as I was, uninfluenced by parents, teachers, society, religion around me, politics around me. I kept myself away from that. If you keep yourself away from identifying yourself with just about anything around you, anything, including your genetics, your society, religion, politics, economics, whatever is happening around you, if you're not identified with anything, it is natural for human intelligence to find its way. Nobody has to teach anybody anything. If you just make sure children don't get identified with you, hello? That you don't want that, you want them identified with you. Because it's your legacy, it's not a new life. It's your legacy, you want to live after you're dead. You want them to be just like you in so many different ways. If you don't have this problem, if you leave them alone, just nurture them so that they're not influenced by anything, you will see the world will be full of mystics.
I'm not persuaded. First of all, okay, there are three things that you said that I'm not completely persuaded of. One is that you never learned anything. When you say you're uneducated, you spoke a language, you knew your neighborhood that you lived in, you learned how to eat and what foods to make, you learned lots of things from the people around you. There's no way you could have survived had you not learned. That's one. Wait, I'm not done. Number two, I want you to know that when I had a child, I didn't want to teach her the ways that I was that didn't work for me. I rather wanted to teach her the joy that I found in the world and the beauty. And I teach her poetry and I teach her wonder. And I think a lot of what I teach her expands her. I'm sure I've taught her some things that she would say, gee, I wish you hadn't taught me that. But I really do believe that most parents want to teach their children not the things that didn't work for them, but rather the things that they found in the world that are extraordinary and wonderful.
No, I did not mean didn't work in that sense. See, the only thing about the adults or the parents is, the only qualification you have is you landed here a few years earlier, yes. All right? Nothing else. Hello? Yes. Isn't that so? Yes. You just came here a little early. Yep. So what do you know? You know a few survival tricks that the child does not know. If you want to teach them business, you want to teach them how to survive in the world, fine, you know better than them, of course. But as life, the reason why everybody loves a child is because child is a better life than the adult. In every way. Just as life, maybe he doesn't have your intellect, maybe he's not accumulated the nonsense that you've accumulated, maybe he does not know how to survive in the world, but as a life, he is far more exuberant and alive than you are. That is why it doesn't matter whose child, when you see a child, you light up, because it's life. Even the grave-faced people get ignited, all right?
You know?
So, When I say teaching children something that did not work in their life, it is not that your survival tricks did not work, obviously they worked for you, that's what you want to teach, because you're concerned about the child's survival, all right? You're concerned, what will happen to him, this is the only thing. See, when people have children, they only have moments of joy, rest of the time it's only anxiety, what will happen, what will happen, what will happen Yes, because it's all about survival. So if you even… I'm trying to look at this comprehensively, even if you just examine the prayers on the planet, this says everything about the adults. 95% of the prayers on the planet are just about, dear God, give me this, give me that, save me, protect me. Does it sound like survival or divine expansion? Maybe only 5% is there. 95% is only save me, protect me, give me this, give me that, isn't it? This is all survival process, outsourced.
Well, yeah, I admit that you are the first person that I know who preaches a desire to uneducate people. And I understand what you're saying, that there is a pure life to a baby, but I don't believe that pure lifedness can exist in an adult the same way it does in a child. I said the same way that it does in a child. No, look, you're a man, in all seriousness, you're a man who has political savvy, you've written books, you travel and speak. There is a certain sophistication to your lack of sophistication that I think is quite right. That seems to be pretty clear. I'm not suggesting, oh, you're just like everybody else. But I also think that maybe you are overplaying the extent to which civilization is a bad idea.
No.
I think it's usually a pretty good idea, often.
No. Civilization is organization of basic human intent, just an organized structure. But organization can also get suffocating for the growth…
No question.
of an individual life. When you are 5 years of age, let's say, when all of you were 5 years of age, how joyful, exuberant and alive you were, and how you are today, though for all of you I can see life has worked out very well, better than you would have imagined for many of you. In spite of that, compared to how you were 5 years of age and today how you are, has it gone down or not? See, I want you to understand, with age, only physical agility can go down, aliveness need not go down. Hello? So are you trying to die in installments? That's all I'm asking you.
It seemed foolish to do it all at once, so I thought I would do it gradually over time. But what I would say is, also, I'm not sure that I would privilege aliveness over everything else, because I might be less alive than I was when I was 5 years old. But I wouldn't go back to being 5, because I have so much now that I did not have as a 5-year-old, and some of it, like sad memories, ways in which I've hurt other people, ways in which I've hurt myself, some of it is stuff that may diminish my life, but I also think has made me wiser, broader, more empathetic, more sympathetic, deeper, all of those things. So I don't see this as a one-way street.
See, essentially, you are trying to, prescribe some amount of suffering for everybody so that they become wiser.
No, I'm saying that a certain amount of suffering is inevitable, and once it happens to you, I'm not sure, you wouldn't choose it, but I'm not sure that once it happens, when you look back on it, you would say, it didn't actually allow me, in some ways, to deepen myself. I don't think that that's unfamiliar to your religious tradition. It certainly isn't to mine.
No, I was just about to clarify that. When I said I came with an advantage, I did not belong to any tradition as such. I did not identify with any tradition, nor they could put me into any tradition. This is all I did. I did not identify myself with anything. Just to tell you to what extent. I was around maybe 12 years of age. And in India, our mothers and parents generally, they're not given to every day profess, I love you, this and that. There is no verbal expression of love. They live for us. We know the question of whether they love us or not doesn't arise because their lives are about us. So, it never occurs whether they love us, don't love us, such things don't even exist. It is just their lives are dedicated to us, so we know they live for us. So, when I'm around 12 years of age, some tender moment and not exactly I love you, but in some way she expressed her affections towards me. I'm in that mode at that time, struggling, that I made sure that I don't belong anywhere, but at the same time I'm extremely involved with everything. So I just asked, it was a natural question for me. I asked her, suppose I was born in the next house, would you still feel this way about me? She just teared up. I didn't know what I said wrong. I thought I just asked a question. But somehow she just teared up and went away. And after 10 minutes she came back and she did something very strange. She came and touched my feet and she was all in tears. I didn't know what to say. I said, what did I do wrong? I just asked a question. But when I look back later on, when things changed within myself, I saw that she saw the point, she got it in such a profound way, because it is true that her affections are simply because I am her son, not as a life, not as just another being. If I was somebody else, she wouldn't feel the same way. When she realized that, she just kind of, an expansion is also cracking up, The eggshell has to crack for something new to come out. So, I just kept… See, if your intelligence is not aligned or associated or identified with anything, it is natural for human intelligence to seek relentlessly. Seeking relentlessly means without any purpose. See, the difference between… because you mentioned the word mysticism, the difference between mysticism and other ways of doing things is, everybody is trying to find something. A scientist is trying to find something. Somebody who's walking the street right now is trying to find something of their own needs. Every human being, every animal is trying to find something, maybe food, maybe shelter, maybe whatever. So if you have a torchlight, if you have a… what do you call this? Flashlight. If you have a flashlight, you have focused light, you're trying to find something. You only see this person or this person or this person. What mysticism means is, you blew your flashlight, it became a flare. You saw everything the way it is. And after that, you are never the same again.
Today, the topic of our discussion is consciousness and spirituality, exploring the inner reality of human existence. Introduction. Among all the mysteries of human life, few are as profound as consciousness and spirituality. Consciousness is the experience of being aware, of thinking, feeling, perceiving and knowing that one exists. Spirituality, on the other hand, is the search for the meaning, purpose and connection beyond the material world. Together they form the deepest dimension of human existence. Throughout history, philosophers, mystics, scientists and religious teachers have asked, what is consciousness? Is it merely a function of the brain, or is it something more fundamental? What is the nature of the self? Does spirituality arise from consciousness, or does consciousness arise from deeper spiritual reality? These questions do not belong to one discipline alone. They lie at the intersection of philosophy, neuroscience, psychology, religion and lived human experience. In the modern world, where technology dominates attention, and material success often defines values, the exploration of consciousness and spirituality remains more relevant than ever. Anxiety, loneliness, and meaninglessness persist even in the most advanced societies. This suggests that human fulfillment does not depend only on external progress, but also on the inner understanding. To explore consciousness and spirituality is to inquire into who we truly are. The speech examines the nature of consciousness, the meaning of spirituality, their historical interpretation, their interrelationship, and their practical implication for life. It aims not merely to inform but to invite reflection on the deepest question of existence. Understanding consciousness. What is consciousness? Consciousness can be described as the state of being aware of oneself and the world. It includes perception, thought, emotion, memory, imagination, and self-awareness. When we say I am conscious, we mean that we are experiencing something, colors, sounds, sensations, ideas, and feelings. As its simplest, consciousness is experience itself. Without it, there would be no inner world. A stone, a machine, or even a plant may function and react, but they do not appear to experience their existence. Human and many animals, however, do. We do not merely exist, we know that we exist. Yet defining consciousness precisely is difficult. Philosopher Thomas Nagel famously asked, "What is it like to be a bat?" The question highlights that consciousness is subjective. No matter how much we study the brain of a bat, we cannot fully know what is it feels like to be one. Consciousness is not just behavior or biological function, it is the inner quality of experience. Levels and dimensions of consciousness. Consciousness is not a single fixed state, it has level and dimension. First dimension is basic awareness, the simple capacity to sense and respond to the environment. Self-awareness is second, the ability to recognize oneself as a distinct individual. Reflective consciousness, the capacity to think about one's own thought, emotions, and actions. Transcendent consciousness, states of awareness reported in meditation, prayer, or mystical experience, where the sense of self expands and dissolves. In everyday life, consciousness fluctuates. We move between wakefulness, dreaming, deep sleep, focused attention, distraction, and emotional absorption. Spiritual tradition often emphasizes higher or deeper state of consciousness, suggesting that ordinary awareness is only a surface layer of a such greater reality. The scientific view of consciousness. Modern science approaches consciousness primarily through neuroscience and psychology. The brain is seen as the physical basis of awareness. Neurons communicate through electrical and chemical signal, forming network that has information. Damage to a specific brain area can alter perception, memory, personality, and even the sense of self. From the perspective, consciousness appears to be emergent property of complex neural activity. However, the explanation raises profound question. Even if we map every neural connection, we still face that philosopher David Claymer called the hard problem of consciousness. Why should physical process in the brain give rise to subjective experience at all? Why is there something it feels like to see red, hear music, or feel love? can describe the mechanism of brain, but the inner quality of experience remains mysterious. This gap between objective measurement and subjective experience leaves room for philosophical and spiritual interpretation. The meaning of spirituality. Defining spirituality. Spirituality is often confused with religion, but the two are not identical. Religion refers to organized system of beliefs, rituals, and institutions. Spirituality is more personal and experiential. It is individual search for meaning, truth, connection, and transcendence. At its core, spirituality involves questions such as who am I beyond the body, roles, and thoughts? What is the purpose of life? Is there a deeper reality underlying the material world? How can I live in harmony with myself, others, and the universe? Spirituality is not necessarily about belief in a deity. For some, it is experience of God. For others, it is sense of unity with nature, humanity, or the cosmos. What unites spiritual path is the recognition that life has a depth that cannot be fully explained by material processes alone. The universal human impulse. Across cultures and eras, human beings have sought meaning beyond survival. Ancient cave painting, burial ritual, myth, and sacred text all testify to a spiritual dimension in human life. Whatever through prayer, meditation, chanting, fasting, pilgrimage, or contemplation, people have always tried to connect with something greater than themselves. The universal impulse suggests that spirituality is not merely a cultural invention, but a fundamental aspect of human consciousness. Even those who reject tradition, religion, often expresses spiritual longing in the other ways. Through art, music, service, philosophy, or sense of wonder at the universe. Spirituality is inner transformation. True spirituality is not merely belief or ritual, it is transformation of consciousness. It involves moving from fear to love, from ignorance to understanding, from ego-centeredness to compassion. Many spiritual traditions emphasize qualities such as humility, mindfulness, forgiveness, non-attachment, and service. On this sense, spirituality is not escape from the world, but a deeper way of engaging with it. It changes how one perceives suffering, success, relationship, and even death. Spiritual growth is the evolution of consciousness towards greater awareness, integration, and wisdom. Historical perspective on consciousness and spirituality. Ancient Indian thought. In the Upanishad and other Indian ancient texts, consciousness is identified with the ultimate reality. The concept of Atma, the inner self, is equated with Brahman, the universal absolute. This means that the deepest essence of the individual is identical with the essence of the cosmos. According to this view, the ordinary consciousness is limited by ignorance, avidya. We mistake the body, mind, and personality for the true self. Through meditation, self-inquiry, and ethical living, one can realize that the deeper consciousness that is infinite, eternal, and blissful. This insight forms the foundation of many Eastern spiritual traditions, including Vedanta, Buddhism, the later yogic philosophies. Liberation, moksha or nirvana is not about escaping the world, but about awakening to one's true nature. Buddhist understanding. Buddhism offers a unique perspective, it denies the existence of permanent, unchanging self. Instead, consciousness is seen as the stream of moment to moment experience conditioned by the cause and effect. The sense of I is a mental construction, not an ultimate reality. Yet, Buddhism is profoundly spiritual. Through mindfulness and meditation, practitioners observe the rising and passing of thought, sensation, and emotion. This leads to insights and impermanence, suffering, and non self. Enlightenment is the realization that clinging to a fixed identity is the root of suffering. Here, consciousness is both the field of experience and the path of liberation. By understanding consciousness directly, one transcends illusions. Western philosophy. In ancient Greece, philosophers such as Plato saw the soul as the seat of reason and moral truth distinct from the body. For Plato, true knowledge was not gained through the sense alone, but through the intellect, which could grasp eternal form. Aristotle took a more logical view, seeing the soul as the form of the body responsible for life and function. In the Middle Age, Christian thinkers integrated Greek philosophy with theology, identifying the soul with divine creation. In the modern era, Rene Descartes famously declared, "I think, therefore I am." He distinguished between the mind, thinking substance, and body, extended substance, creating a dualism that influences centuries of thought. Consciousness because associated with rational thought and self-awareness. Later philosopher questions this separation. Existentialist emphasizes lived experience, while phenomenist focused on consciousness as it appears to itself. The question of how mind and the matter relate remains central to Western philosophy. Mystical tradition across cultures. Mystics in Christianity, Islam, Sufism, Judaism, Taoism, and indigenous tradition have reported experiences of unity, timelessness, and divine presence. Despite cultural differences, these accounts share striking similarities: loss of ego boundaries, overwhelming peace of love, and sense of ultimate reality. These experiences suggest that consciousness can access dimensions beyond ordinary perception. For mystic, spirituality is not belief but direct knowing. Their insights challenge pure material explanation of consciousness. Relationship between consciousness and spirituality. Consciousness, the basis of spirituality. On way of understand the relationship is to spirituality as rising from consciousness. Humans are conscious not only to the old but also to their own awareness. The self-reflective capacity enables us to ask existential questions and seek meaning beyond immediate needs. Without consciousness, there could be no spirituality, because spirituality involves awareness of something deeper than material existence. In this sense, consciousness is the foundation upon which spirituality inquiry is built. Consciousness itself is spiritual. Another perspective goes further. Consciousness itself is not merely a byproduct of the brain, but the fundamental reality of existence. According to this view, matter arises within consciousness, not the other way around. The idea appears in idealist philosophy, Eastern metaphysics, and modern theories such as pantheism. If consciousness is primary, then spirituality is not an added layer on top of life. It is the recognition of what life already is. To become spiritually aware is simply to awaken to the true nature of consciousness, the ego and the deeper self. In everyday life, consciousness is filtered through the ego, the sense of being separate individual with personal desire, fear, and identities. While the ego is necessary for practical functioning, it also creates a feeling of isolation and competition. Spiritual tradition often describe a deeper level of consciousness beyond the ego. This deeper self is not defined by role, achievements, or possessions. It is characterized by presence, awareness, and connection. When individuals experience this level, they often report a sense of unity with others and with the existence itself. Thus, spirituality can be seen as the process of shifting identity from the egoistic self to the deeper consciousness, altered states of consciousness and spiritual experience. Meditation and mindfulness. Meditation is one of the most direct way to explore consciousness. By sitting quietly and observing the breath, thought, or sensation. Practitioners becomes aware of the mind's habitual pattern. Over time, the constant flow of the thought may slow, revealing the state of calm, clarity, and presence. In deep meditation, many experience a sense of spacious awareness, free from personal narratives. This state is often described as peaceful, timeless, and profoundly real. For a spiritual seeker, such experiences confirms that consciousness is not limited to ordinary thinking. Mindfulness, a related practice, involves bringing full awareness to everyday activities. It cultivates a non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. This practice bridges spirituality and daily life, showing that the sacred is not separate from the ordinary. Prayer and devotion. In religious tradition, prayer is a way of directing consciousness towards the divine, whether through spoken words, silent contemplation, or chanting. Prayer focuses attention that and integration. For many, this leads to feelings of guidance, comforts, and connection with a higher power. Devotional practices often dissolve the sense of separation between the individual and the sacred. The devotee experiences life as being held within a greater presence. Mystical and peak experience. Psychologist Abraham Maslow studied what he called peak experiences, moment of intense joy, unity, and meaning. These experiences can occur in nature, art, love, or moment of deep insight. These are often described in spiritual terms, even by those who do not follow a religion. Such experiences suggest that human consciousness has the capacity to transcend ordinary limitation. They offer glimpses of reality in which boundaries dissolve and meaning becomes self-evident. Modern science and spiritual consciousness. Neuroscience of meditation and spirituality. Recent research has begun to study meditation and spiritual practices using brain imaging technologies. Findings suggest that Long-term meditation can alter brain structure and function. Areas associated with attention, emotional regulation, and empathy show increased activity or thickness. During deep meditation or prayerful state, activity in the brain default mode network associated with the self-referential thinking often decreases. They may correlate with the experience of ego dissolution and unity. While neuroscience can describe the brain correlates of spiritual states, it does not necessarily explain the ultimate meaning. The data show how much states occur in the brain, but not why these feel transient or whether they correspond to a deeper reality. Near-death experiences and consciousness beyond the brain. Reports of near-death experiences have fueled debates about the nature of consciousness. Many individuals who have clinically close to death describe vivid experiences, moving through a tunnel, encountering light, reviewing their life, or feeling overwhelming peace and love. Skeptics attribute this experience to neurological processes under extreme stress. Others argue that some near-death experience contain elements that cannot be fully explained by the brain activity alone, such as accurate perception during unconsciousness. Regardless of interpretation, near-death experience profoundly transform those who experiences them, often leading to greater spirituality, compassion, and reduced fear of death. The limits of materialism. While science has made remarkable progress in understanding the brain, many researchers acknowledge that consciousness remains one of the greatest mysteries. Materialistic explanation. The consciousness is entirely produced by matter, face philosophical challenges, particularly in exploring subjective experience. Some scientists and philosophers are exploring alternative frameworks such as idealism. The view of consciousness is the fundamental substance of reality. These emerging perspectives blur the boundary between science and spirituality, suggesting that the nature of consciousness may be more profound than previously assumed. Ethical and practical implication. Consciousness, spirituality, and moral life. If consciousness is more than a biological accident, and if all beings share a deeper reality, then ethics takes a new dimension. Spiritual tradition emphasize compassion, non-violence, and respect for life precisely because harming others is at a deeper level harming oneself. When individuals experience interconnectedness, their behavior often becomes more altruistic. Spiritual awareness fostered empathy, patience, and responsibility. Ethics becomes not a set of external rules, but a natural expression of awakened consciousness. Healing and well-being. Modern psychology increasingly recognizes the importance of mindfulness, meaning, and spiritual well-being in mental health. Practices that cultivates awareness and inner peace reduce stress, anxiety, and depression. A sense of purpose and connection contributes to resilience in the face of suffering. Spirituality does not eliminate pain, but it changes one's relationship to it. Suffering becomes a teacher rather than a meaningless burden. Conscious awareness allows individuals to observe their emotion rather than be overwhelmed by them. Living with awareness. To live consciously is to present in one's own form. It means noticing thought instead of being unconsciously driven by it, choosing responses rather than reacting automatically, and acting in alignment with deeper values. Spiritual consciousness transforms ordinary activities, work, relationships, service into expression of meaning. Life is no longer a race of external achievements alone, but a journey of inner growth, consciousness, death, and the question of afterlife. One of the deepest human concern is the fate of consciousness after death. If consciousness is entirely dependent on the brain, then it likely ceases when the body dies. If, however, consciousness is more fundamental than matter, death may not be the end of awareness. Spiritual tradition overwhelmingly affirms some form of continued existence, heaven, rebirth, liberation, or union with the divine. While science cannot verify these claims, experience such as near-death experience, mystical insights, and the intuitive sense of meaning beyond mortality keep the question open. Even without certainty, after afterlife, spirituality offers a way to face death with acceptance. When identity is not limited to the ego, fear of annihilation diminishes. Death becomes not an enemy, but a transition within the mystery of existence. Challenges and misunderstanding. Escapism and spiritual bypassing. One danger in spirituality is to escape from real life problem. Some may avoid responsibility, relationship, or social issue by retreating into abstract idea of transcendence. True spirituality, however, does not deny the world, it transforms how one lives within it. Dogmatism and division. When spiritual insights are rigidly turned into beliefs, they can become source of conflict. History shows that religion and ideology can divide as much as they unite. Authentic spirituality emphasizes direct experiences, humility, and openness rather than absolute claims. The balance between reason and faith. Another challenge is integrating spiritual experiences with critical thinking. Blind faith can lead to superstition, while rigid rationalism can dismiss profound aspects of human life. A mature approach honors both inquiry and inner experiences. Conclusion. Consciousness and spirituality are not separate realms, but two perspectives on the same mystery. The nature of being consciousness is the field in which we experiences occurs. Spirituality is the recognition of the depth, meaning, and interconnectedness of that field. From ancient philosophy to modern neuroscience, from meditation hall to scientific laboratories, humanity continues to explore the inner dimension of existence. While definitive answer may remain elusive, the journey itself transforms those who undertake it. To understand consciousness, is to inquire into what it means to be aware. To embrace spirituality is to seek what it means to fully human. Together, they invite us beyond the surface of life into a deeper relationship with ourselves, others, and the universe. In the world often dominated by noises, speed, and external achievement, the exploration of consciousness and spirituality offer a path back to stillness, clarity, and meaning. It reminds us that beneath our thought, roles, and identities lies a vast awareness, one that connects us to all of life. To awaken to this truth is the merely to gain knowledge, but to transform how we live. Consciousness and best leadership. Leadership is often discussed in terms of strategy, power, influence, and result. Yet behind every effective strategy and every inspiring speech stands something more subtle and fundamental: consciousness. Consciousness is the field of awareness from which thought, emotions, intentions, and action arises. It shapes how leaders perceive reality, interpret challenges, treat people, and make decisions. The quality of leadership, therefore, is deeply connected to the quality of consciousness. To understand the best leadership, we must understand consciousness, not merely as alertness or intelligence, but as a living awareness that includes self-understanding, moral clarity, emotional sensitivity, and sense of interconnectedness. Leadership rooted in such consciousness is not mechanical or manipulative. It is human, ethical, purposeful, and transformative. Understanding consciousness in leadership. Consciousness in the context of leadership can be understood as the leader's level of awareness about self, other, and the larger system in which they operate. It includes self-awareness, understanding one's motive, strength, weaknesses, fears, and biases; rational awareness, recognizing the feeling, perspectives, and needs of others; situational awareness, seeing the broader context including the cultural, economics, and ethical dimension; purpose awareness, being clear about the deeper why behind action and decision. A leader operating at a low level of consciousness may be reactive, ego-driven, or short-sighted. They may focus primarily on control, personal gain, or maintaining power. In contrast, a high conscious leader is reflective rather than reactive. They pause before acting. They examine their own inner state. They consider the long-term impact of decision on people and society. The best leadership does not arise from authority, but from a refined consciousness that integrates intellect, emotions, and ethics. Self-awareness, the foundation of great leadership. The journey towards conscious leadership begins with self-awareness. A leader who does not understand themselves cannot effectively guide others. Self-awareness involves recognizing personal triggers, habitual reactions, and underlying beliefs. For example, if a leader is unaware of their insecurity, they may respond defensively to criticism. If they do not recognize their need for control, they may micromanage. Such unconscious pattern create stress and mistrust within teams. A conscious leader, however, reflects regularly. They ask, why did I react the way? What fear of belief influenced my decision? How can I respond more wisely next time? The inner inquiry cultivates humility. It opens the door to growth. Instead of pretending to be perfect, conscious leaders admit mistakes. This honesty builds trust. Self-awareness also includes understanding one's values. Leaders who are clear about their principle are likely to compromise integrity for short-term success. Their decisions are guided not only by profit or popularity but by conscience, emotional intelligence, and compassion. Consciousness in leadership is closely linked to emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence involves recognizing and managing one's emotions and responding skillfully to the emotions of others. In high pressure environment, emotions run strong. Fear, frustration, ambition, excitements. A reactive leader may amplify tension by expressing anger or blame. A conscious leader, however, remains centered. They acknowledge emotions without being controlled by them. Compassion is another hallmark of conscious leadership. Compassion does not mean weakness or lack of discipline. Rather, it means understanding that people are human beings that with personal struggles and aspirations. A compassionate leader listens deeply. They do not see employers merely as resources but an individual with dignity. When leaders operate from compassion, teams feel psychologically safe, creativity increases, loyalty deepens, conflicts are resolved constructively. Compassionate leadership fosters an environment where people can bring their authentic selves to the work. This authenticity leads to genuine engagement and higher performance. Vision rooted in awareness. Great leadership requires vision. However, vision that arises from ego, desires, or fame, domination, or personal recognition often leads to exploitation or burnout. Vision rooted in consciousness is different. It is grounded in service. A conscious leader asks, how does this vision benefit others? How does it contribute to society? What positive legacy will it create? Such leader will beyond immediate gains. They consider environmental sustainability, social justice, and long-term well-being. Their decisions reflect a broader awareness of interconnectedness system. For example, in business, conscious leadership might prioritize ethical supply chain, fair wages, and responsible environmental practices, even if this choice reduces short-term profits. Over time, this integrity builds strong reputation and sustainable success. Vision, informed by consciousness, inspire people not only to work but to believe. Ego versus high consciousness. One of the central challenges in leadership is the management of ego. Ego is not inherently bad. It provides identity and drive. However, when unchecked, ego leads to arrogance, fear of losing status, resistance to feedback. Low consciousness leadership is often characterized by need for constant validation, inability to admit mistake, suppression of dissent, manipulation of information, blaming others for failures. Higher consciousness leadership, on the other hand, involves transcending ego. This does not mean eliminating individuality but aligning personal ambition with collective good. A conscious leader recognizes that leadership is stewardship, not ownership. They see themselves as guardians of the organization, missing rather than the master of it. When ego is balanced, leaders becomes open to learning. They invite diverse perspective. They encourage constructive disagreement. Such openness strengthens decision making and innovation. Ethical clarity and moral courage. The best leadership is inseparable from ethics. Consciousness sharpens moral perception. It helps leaders distinguish between what is merely legal and what is truly right. In complex situations, ethical decisions are rarely simple. They may be competing interests and pressures. A conscious leader reflects deeply before acting. They consider the consequence of our stakeholders. Moral courage is the willingness to act according to the conscience even when it is risky. This way involves rejecting unethical deals, protecting vulnerable employees, speaking truth to power. Such courage arises from inner clarity. Leaders who are anchored in their values are less easily swayed by fear or greed. History shows that society remembers leadership not only for achievements but for integrity. Ethical leadership builds enduring trust, which is the foundation of long term influence. Presence and mindfulness. Conscious leadership also involves presence, the ability to fully attentive in the moment. In the world of constant distraction, presence is rare yet powerful. A present leader listens without interruption. They observe subtle cues in conversation. They notice team morale. They detect emerging problem early. Mindful practice such as meditation, reflective journaling, or silent contemplation can strengthen this presence. These practices claim the mind, reduce impulsivity, and enhance clarity. When leaders cultivate inner stillness, they respond rather than react. Decision becomes more thoughtful, communication becomes more authentic, stress decreases. Presence also communicates respect. When a leader gives full attention, people feel valued. Adaptive system thinking. Consciousness expands perception. A leader with expanded awareness sees pattern and connections rather than isolated events. This system thinking is crucial in complex environment. For example, declining productivity may not simply be a performance issue, it could be linked to burnout, unclear expectation, poor communication, or external stressors. A conscious leader investigates root causes rather than applying superficial fixes. Adaptability is another expression of consciousness. The world changes rapidly technologically, socially, economically. Leaders attached rigidly to old model may fail. Conscious leaders remain curious and flexible. They embrace learning, they encourage experimentation, they accept uncertainty as part of growth. Adaptability requires humility. The recognition that no one has complete knowledge, this humility strengthens resilience and innovation. Empowerment and shared leadership. Traditional leadership models often emphasizes hierarchy and centralized authority. Conscious leadership shift towards environment. A conscious leader understands that intelligence and creativity are distributed throughout the organization. They do not hold decision making power. Instead, they create conditions where others can lead. The empowerment involves encouraging initiative, providing mentorship, recognizing contribution. When people feel trusted, they take ownership. Engagement rises. The organization becomes more agile. Shared leadership also reflects a deeper truth of consciousness. We are interconnected. Success is collective, not individual. Recognizing this interconnectedness reduces completion within team and foster collaboration. Conscious communication. Communication is the direct expression of consciousness. Words are built or destroy trust. A conscious leader speaks with clarity, honesty, and empathy. They avoid manipulation or hidden agendas. Even difficult messages are delivered respectfully. They listen as much as they speak. Active listening involves giving full attention, reflecting back understanding, suspending judgment, asking thoughtful questions. Though conscious communication misunderstandings decreases and relationships strengthen, resilience and inner stability. Leadership inevitably involves setbacks, criticism, and uncertainty. Consciousness provides inner stability. A leader anchored in awareness does not collapse under pressure. They observe challenges without identifying completely with them. This perspective allows for calm problem solving. Resilience is strengthened by a sense of purpose, supportive relationships, reflective practices, physical and emotional self-care. When leaders model resilience, they inspire confidence in their teams. Developing conscious leadership. Consciousness is not fixed, it can be cultivated intentionally. Practices that support conscious leadership include regular self-reflection, seeking honest feedback, engaging in mindfulness or meditation, studying ethics and philosophy, coaching and mentoring, serving beyond self-interest. Growth requires willingness to comfort uncomfortable truth about oneself. It requires patience and dedication. The best leadership is not merely about achieving target or commanding authority. It is about embodying a refined state of consciousness that integrates self-awareness, compassion, ethical clarity, vision, presence, and adaptability. In a world facing complex challenges, environmental crises, social inequalities, technological disruption, the need for conscious leadership has never been greater. Technical competence alone cannot solve the problem. We need leaders who understand the interconnected nature of life, who act with integrity, and who inspire collective growth. Conscious leadership transforms organization from place of merely productivity into communities of purpose. It transforms power into service. It transforms ambition into contribution. Ultimately, leadership is an inner journey expressed through outer action. When consciousness evolves, leadership evolves. And when leadership evolves, society more closer to justice, sustainability, and shared well-being. The future belongs not only to the loudest or most dominant leader, but to the most conscious one. Please note that these are our personal reflection on the topic discussed today and not the definite conclusion of what Sadhguru shared us today. Subscribe our channel for more updates. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.